Well, that's not a qualification to become a writer. There must be 3 or 4 Quentin Tarantinos hiding in the world somewhere and break the rules. You're going to take some slaps. What the hell did I write? I may be talentless. Why am I crying at a man almost half naked? I mean, you become older, you will be going to the loo in the middle of the night. You say, what the hell is this scene, man? Either you convince me or I convince you. तू मेरे को ऐसा बोला, ऐसा भी नहीं है. Action. What the hell happened here? She's beautiful.
Try not to sound so simple.
The thing is, while I was learning from Alex we would get together, talk of scenes, discuss them, act them out, and then there would be corrections. I think learning is everything, and I want to make one correction that you said I've been in this field for so long. Well, that's not a qualification to become a writer. You've got to be writing for so long to be called a writer. I've been in this field for so long as an actor. That does not qualify me as a director. You got to start from scratch and then learn as much as you can. So for me, it was a bit of a wake-up call to say that I'd written a pretty good story and some pretty good scenes. But for some reason, I was not able to get a narrative that was holding it all together. And I learned so much under Alex and his work in the film. When we discuss it, and we will be discussing it soon enough, it's just priceless. And it is all that Alex taught me. And of course, my experience as an actor or my experience as a cinephile like you. So while we have that bent towards appreciating films, writing has got nothing to do with film appreciation. You understand? So no matter how much of a cinephile I thought I was, and to realize that, okay, so I know which director made and his whole filmography and who was the assistant on this and who was the assistant stuntman, that doesn't make me a writer. There must be 3 or 4 Quentin Tarantinos hiding in the world somewhere, but there are very few Quentin Tarantinos. And you have to, and he was not only a cinephile, I can bet you that Quentin Tarantino understands everything that you need to know about writing and break the rules. And a lot of people say he does break the rules, but I feel he follows the rules too, a hell of a lot. It's just to understand and get all your ducks in a row and understand that this is what it takes to make a film. This is what it takes to write a film. So just because I didn't go to film school, it didn't mean I didn't study how to write, or I did not study or do workshops. I didn't go to one film school for 3 years, but I've been doing film school every other day, reading a book. And you pick up any book on my table, you will see it's got to do with the movies. It's got to do with, this one's got to do with editing, sound and editing. So you got to be that student. But again, just because you read 50 books, it does not mean you know anything about writing. It means nothing. You got to sit there, you got to write the scene, you got to write a bad scene, you got to take some feedback on it, you got to take some slaps and say, what the hell did I write? You tear it up and throw it out and say, let's write it again. What is the scene about? Who has the action? What is action? That basic thing. What is action? What are the obstacles? What is the intention? I mean, there is no end to learning. And I may be talentless, but I have patience. You look at anything of worth in this world, especially in the art world, nothing happened like that. Any great piece of work, any great art, it happened because of the years and years of chipping away. We don't have time today because we need to survive. You go to Florence and you see Michelangelo's David, and you look at that piece of marble and say, why am I crying? Why am I crying at a man almost half naked with a slingshot in his hand looking this way? Why am I crying? I don't know. Because the man spent God knows how many years studying anatomy before he even started sculpting a vein on somebody's hand. You got to know that it takes a lot to get something half decent. So when we started Irani Movie Tone, the launch, Mr. Bachchan was so kind to come and launch it for us. And we revealed the logo, which was on a turntable, old style wooden logo of Irani Movie Tone. He came in, and we didn't throw a party. We threw a workshop, which started at 10:30 in the morning and ended at 5 o'clock in the evening. I think that was the way to a celebration. And Alex came and did that workshop. And that's when Spiral Bound was born. So I think that's a beautifully put question, because we get very protective of what we create, and we've created it, so it has to be good. The best way to the best way to do it is to write it. Get up first thing in the morning, or maybe in the middle of the night when you go to the loo. I mean, you become older, you will be going to the loo in the middle of the night, but you get up middle of the night and read it again. And while you're writing it with a certain passion. You know what I'm saying? I said you read it and you've written it with a lot of passion. You're writing there's tears rolling down, there's music, there's a certain music playing over, you wrote it. And then you pick it up in the morning, the first thing in the morning, and read it again and say, now the page has become cold. Does it read as well? Believe me, 9 times out of 10, it will not. Because writing is about rewriting. So if you say, I wrote a masterpiece last night, I went and woke up my wife and said, read this. You looks at me like, oh, very nice, very nice. I'm just passionate about it. When somebody comes and tells you something, make note of it. Everybody does not have an Alex in their lives. You say, what the hell is this scene, man? Don't get offended. He said it in two breaths. This is one of the best lines I've ever read. And this is one of the worst lines I've ever read. Now, you can get very offended by that, but don't. Why would somebody like that say it just to offend you? No, because he cares for your story. He cares for you. He cares for the final product. But you got to gather people around you that you can trust, who aren't just giving you thoughts instinctively. Again, you got to listen to instinctive thoughts also. And throw it away if you don't want to, but listen. I am attached to my work, and eventually I'll make the film that I like. But if somebody turns around and says, that's a terrible scene, I'll say, explain to me, and I'll change my mind. Either you convince me or I convince you. And the best way to do it is to read it with different people. Read it with different people, read it with actors, do a table reading. Read it after every 15 days. And believe it or not, it'll either sound better or it'll sound a whole lot worse. But it should be durable. Well, Alex says one thing. If I remove this scene, will your script and story come crashing down? No, then remove it. If I remove this line, will the scene come crashing down? No, just remove it. He's a master of teaching you how to remove fat. And I'm proud to say, if there's one thing in our film, that there's very little fat in the film. Every line is probably accounted for. Every prop is accounted for. There'll be a recall for even a simple prop, like when she comes and drops the envelope on the table, the manila envelope on the table, and said, everything's in this. And he says, thank you. And you just think that's just an entry. It will show its pretty face in the final scene again. When he puts the paper on the table in front of Makija and says, Ek dusre pe kagaz pe gire. It will show it. Everything is accountable. So when the fat is removed, just what is required remains. That's the biggest tip I can give young writers out there. Story idea, I think you may be knowing this, but it was Sujoy Ghosh gave me the one-liner. The father and son have to spend 48 hours together, and then at the airport he says, you don't have to go, Dad. But we didn't use that part of it, but ever grateful to Sujoy Ghosh for, just giving it to me and say, okay, go ahead, make your film. It took me 15 years since then to start thinking of thoughts. But I like the idea of this dynamic of where there are no real answers to incompatibility between two males who don't have to be toxic in that sense. They just have their weaknesses, or they just have their flaws. and they're trying to cope with their own situation. One is trying to make it in life, and the other guy is trying to hang on to his manhood, and he's losing it little by little by little by little. And it's a disintegration of a man who seems to have been a powerful guy, and now he's without a wife, without a house, without a passport, without anything. So, and without his dignity, because when the kid bowls underarm to him, he's saying, "You're just an old man. I mean, I can't bowl full tick to you. You'll get hurt." So that's his slide down. And I just thought that I'd written one of the earliest scenes I'd written, which Alex kind of waved his magic wand over, and he did some wonderful stuff with that scene, was a scene on the balcony where we speak of typewriters and pencil drawings. And that scene was not just about speaking about the old and the new, this is what this film is actually about, but about how to bring to life a conversation that can start in the most beautiful situation. Bhajia, it's rained, candlelight, music, darkness, stars, invoking the presence of the mother, and a quote from Sai Baba. What can go wrong? And everything goes wrong for no reason. So if they trace their steps back in that scene and say, where was it that the whole conversation devolved or disintegrated? They don't know. And that is the blueprint of all arguments between fathers and sons, mummies and daddies, girlfriends and boyfriends, and friends and friends. There is a trigger which everything gets wiped out within seconds and you don't even know. So the last line in the stage direction is saying, Amay looks up, gulps down the last drink, and wonders what the hell happened here. You don't know. It's not that tu mere ko aisa bola. Aisa bhi nahi hai. I don't know what went wrong. We're having a conversation. We're drinking. We're trying to bond. That fascinates me in conflict. Conflict does not necessarily have to have a tu mai about. It's got to do with your worldview versus my worldview. But in this particular case, it's just got to do with nothing. And I found that fascinating. And there are no answers. Would you think they can live together? Of course not, after what happened. Sure, he understands his father a little better and he understands his son a little better. But can they live together? No. It's better that he goes. And of course, the going and the flight is the final goodbye. I mean, I did not want to bring death into it. There was enough of sadness, but it's just that he's gone. And we allude to that much earlier, another accountable line, where the sister says, "You may never see him again." And we have to take notice of that. There's a possibility he'll never see the old man again. Then why is he behaving so stupidly? So that's what attracted me to the story. I think Arohi did a great job in that little piece that she put together. It was so beautifully written. So I think she's covered most of that. But I'll just add nothing can happen by chance. It has to be in the script and it has to be premeditated. I mean, you can't say ek lal talpatri le gaya ho yaar. You can't do that. I mean, we test flew that talpatri God knows how many times in the backyard of the office. Of course, when we went onto the terrace to make it blow, because there were some holes in it, it didn't fly as well, but a lot went into that. But nothing happens by chance. So, well, we got to plan this really, really in advance. The production designer, God bless her, Payal Ghosh, amazing job. Well, what's the brief? I need to see that Amay is sitting in a place where those blotches out there are not happy blotches. That red is almost a messed up mind. That's all I got to tell her. And then she put a frame around it, or a marking of a frame, to say, how do we justify its presence over there? We just can't put blotches of red over there. So there was a color, it's peeling. There must have been a frame behind it. And because of that frame, it came peeling. But again, we erected a lamppost, or rather a traffic light, on the street in the rain sequence with a red light that's blinking. We had to erect it. So These are the things you got to pay attention to. Who's wearing the red in the scene will be the disruptor, as ROE picked up very well. Very well. And it has to be contrasted with the complementary color that is the muted and or the one who's taking the back seat. And the red is all over the place, including the car, including everything. It's there not by fluke. It's there by design, literally by design. And it's there with the whole thing came up with the red sari, the red sari and the beautiful conversation of love that the old man had for his wife. And she's angry with them. She's angry with them. So there were three or four locations actually that are very important. One represented Shiv's beautiful world, which was shattered with the loss of Shivani. And we talk about how Shivani, and this has got everything to do with Alex's beautiful work in the film. Shivani's, we take great pride in saying there were three female characters, not two. Now, while we were designing, the brief was that Shiv's house must have a calming effect on you, hence we used the green. The office must have leading lines in symmetry. So wherever you go, there are lines and lines that are leading to your characters. Even the first scene when they enter the office and she starts berating him, where the credit ends, you see that there are slats over there, and then the table leads you over there. Perspectives, because it's got to do with architecture. Even when he's sitting and drawing, all those tubes that are against the wall, they're leading you to the person, the character. Amay's house is a mess, and that's actually in many ways easy to do, but difficult because you could overplay your hand or you could underplay your hand. It may not look much of a mess, or it could be that someone's gone berserk. The set dresser went berserk, and it became a little over the top. But Amay's house had to be a mess, and so that's the second house. The third, I mentioned the office. So I mentioned all three. There's one more office which we erected, and I was the producer too, but I had to fight with my producer son and executive producer Ankita Batra, God bless them, Danish and Ankita. I wanted that set erected. I wanted it wooden. It could not be. How about this office? Well, I don't like this office. Why? It's got a nice table. It's got the modern things. And I said, exactly, I don't want modern things. I want it wood paneled. I want it as an office of time gone by, because when those blinds go up in the first scene, right, you should see the glass and steel contrast against the wood. It was important to me. So these were the requirements I had visually to demarcate the four main rooms: the office where he's drawing, the boardroom, which has got an old world charm to him. Hence, there is a staircase going up. You've got to work your way up. That's the one little metaphor maybe people may have not got, but that's fine. You got to work your way up, and you go to the boss's office, and suddenly, which was what was downstairs, which was a lot to do with a modern office with all those pipes running around the place. Again, those pipes are giving you a lot of perspectives. But when you go to the boss's office, it's an old world office. It's the old man's office. His father, Sen and son. That was erected. Everyone was very upset with me, but that's fine. I say I am the producer also, and I try to put my foot down. Yeah. And of course the boardroom. It had to contrast with the glass and steel. Yeah. So, and then of course the glass and steel, we used to take hundreds of pictures of glass buildings to see how many feet away. It should be a little overpowering, but not too overpowering. It shouldn't be in your face. So even, the amount of distance, we had to sit and demarcate exactly how far the other building would be to give you that sense of glass and steel, because that's a recurring motif. It keeps coming, and you don't understand why there's glass and steel right from the beginning of the film. Well, that was part of the designing process. And of course, there's so many other aspects that go into the production design. But Payal Ghosh did a great job. Big shout out to my darling Payal Ghosh. I had the whole world playing Shiv Mehta. Every single actor that I loved and respected, we would consider him because the idea being that I wanted to be hands-free or acting free. Don't concentrate on acting, just concentrate on direction. And then when I was reading it with other characters, especially during the casting stage, it was coming, it become part of me. And then I said, if I am acting, I need to do all the homework and put all my ducks in a row. So 3 months before, most of it was prepared, not just pre-production, but pre-direction. Cameras, the angles, there was a lovely software that's available for, you can move the camera this way, you can tell where the camera is, it's at the top shot, over shoulders, whatever. So that was done months in advance. We used to go to the location and even, shoot it on an iPhone, at the location. And see, this will be the kind of camera movement at what kind of speed, measure the dialogue, make sure that it kind of lands at this particular time at this dialogue. Except one thing we were planning to shoot in cuts, but we did it in one take, was the airport sequence because we didn't have time. And then we had to leave it to Pooja Sarup to spin her magic, and we gave her 3 takes, and then she did it in the first take. She just cracked it because we had rehearsed that scene so many times with her. She was so marvelous in the airport sequence. Well, it's about a broken home, right? And the idea of the hole in the ceiling was that. And nothing works better. That's the midpoint sequence when we see the whole. I mean, in writing, we always associate the midpoint where actually there's a thematic clash of what's happening. What's the film actually about? It's not about a twist. It's a thematic clash. So, and it's a point in the film, the midpoint, where the characters are kind of where they want to be, but not exactly where they want to be. So the best situation, as Alex put it, it's perfect. Don't touch it. Don't argue about it. They are in bed together, but not in a happy space. They are now friends, but not the way they want to be friends. That's the definition of his definition of midpoint, and it works pretty magically. And then, of course, the mother's point of view, we pull the camera out, we say, okay, you two guys, and then she's also turning her eyes to the glass and steel because the boy is not getting the glass and steel motif, right? So also there is another very important point is that he wants to be successful. He has an aspiration to be successful. Hence that very odd wardrobe. People say, यार ऐसे घर में wardrobe क्यों ऐसे रखा? Again, deliberately done because that's what he wants to pose himself as. Two, um, when he's humiliated in a sense without making much of a deal when he says, I'm an architect. And she says, okay. I think that's very well acted uh, by Shreya. And he now has to rebuild. He has to rebuild. He may want many things, but he needs to fix himself. He needs to step up to the plate. And the next cut after the midpoint is him carrying a stone, like Sisyphus going up the mountain with the stone, one of his trials. You see, so it has to cut over there. It has to cut over because now you've got to start rebuilding. Pebble by pebble, rock by rock. And the next scene, he's sitting and drawing and he still doesn't get it. Is there something that's stopping me from understanding what everybody wants? Idiot, your father told you what is this glass and steel, but he's not listening because that's what old people do. And you don't listen. Sometimes they may have the old world wisdom that we feel is boring and not in touch with our times. So that's why architect. It's a metaphor to a broken home. Again, we use that same thing in the Laurel and Hardy clip. They must have watched that as kids and laughed, and they're still laughing and not getting that their home is broken. Their home is broken, and Laurel and Hardy and that truck going inside that house and the whole thing coming down, and the two of them are laughing like they must have laughed when they were kids. So one one decision that I took as a director, I mean, there's a lot of Alex in that scene, as you may well imagine. But one decision I took was no screaming and no shouting. It's not a shouting match. In fact, Avinash is very good. Doesn't need to be told too many things, but the instruction to him was very clear that you have to try and be restrained. Don't fall for this because that's what caused all the problems. You losing your head, and now in your head you're a more mature guy. But he falls for that line, can't be that complicated, and he gets offended. And it kind of, as we discussed a little earlier in the earlier section. But in the shooting of it, it was pretty beautiful to shoot. We won that balcony, and uh, film students will speak of eye lines and crossing the axis. And I took a chance. Shoot me. I took a chance. I said, I'm going to make a mess once they are not in agreement with each other. I'm going to fool around with the axis. So sometimes he's looking this way and the eye lines are wrong. And believe me, there's no other wrong eye line in the entire movie except for that scene. And I deliberately went for it in the edit, and we shot it in a way that, sometimes over the shoulder, they're trying to make, and then in isolation, because now they are isolated, and he looks this way and he says, obsolete. And we don't know who he's looking at, because now he's in his own mind. He's disconnected with the boy. So maybe film students might turn around and say, oh, the eye line was off and maybe you broke axis. It was deliberately done. Whether it succeeds or not is another story. But I tried. Shoot me. But that's how I shot it. I think it's part of the characterization. It's also part of a scene where I'm going to just run you all through is what does somebody want in a scene? Who wants what in the scene? That scene is when he's tucking his shirt and is a scene like it's almost like Shivani told the old man, look, man, you're going to be here, you're leaving tonight or tomorrow, or whenever. Just make friends. He goes the whole way. He goes out, he looks at the frame. He could have easily gotten upset with the frame. We think he's upset about the frame, but he goes shopping. He wouldn't have gone otherwise. He brings the groceries. He cooks. That guy plays music. That guy takes the bottle. And he says, okay, I don't want to be sloppy on my birthday. Let's make a evening out of it. And he tucks in his shirt, say, let's make an occasion out of it. And it's also to build up what he wants. What does he want? He wants to make an attempt to be friends with his son, or at least please the. He keeps blaming the old lady for everything. It's him. He didn't want to go, but he's saying the old lady doesn't want me to go. वो नहीं चाहती है कि मैं जाऊं. Who told you that? He's him talking to himself. मैं नहीं चाहती मैं जाऊं. But you don't want to go. You never wanted to go when you had that tantrum with Pooja in the house over the typewriter and the frames and the sofa. He didn't want to go. So he's blamed. But now that he's going, when he saw the frame the first time, he nods his head, and you think he's going to go and fight with his son. He doesn't. He goes and says, it's a good house. Okay, then that goes wrong. Now he comes and cooks, and he says, bhajia banate, yaar, waise baat karte, waise baat. And it goes wrong. And you feel, what does the character want is very important. Who has the action? Who has the major intention? When you create an intention, it's up to you to create the obstacles for him to get there. And it's not going to happen then. It has to happen more or less towards the end of the film. So these kind of thoughts come only from intention. You can't tuck in your shirt willy-nilly. You must know what is he thinking of. He wants to make friends, so I'm going to make an occasion of it. So I'm tucking my shirt, I'm making the bhajiyas. He's putting the bhajia. Khana. He's talking about the mother. He's talking about unity. He's auto-suggesting. Through the mother, look at the stars, millions and dancing in the night sky, all with the message of unity, the very nature of God. Teri maa ne bola tha. Your mother used to utter it every day. He is telling him, Baba, your mother wants us to be peaceful. That's the subtext in there. But he can't say it. If you say it in as many words, it loses its power. You understand that your mother always wanted us to be friends. That's not as nice as saying, look at the stars, millions of them dancing in the night sky, twinkling in the night sky, all with them. Who said it? Sai Baba. It's your mother's favorite quote. You see, what's the intention of the scene is very important, and everything starts falling into place. You start inventing touches and nuance through the intention. This is what Alex has taught me. Alex taught me this. And it's so important. Again, the intention at the dining table, half the bill, and what I just wanted to have a happy one last meal with the two of you. The intention was that, and the obstacle was the son thought that he's the bigger man. I'll pay half the bill. Yeah, okay. That comes from intention, and then conflict is the antidote for intention. When there's a dramatic scene earlier, again, it's an accountable line. Do you want me to take this, my typewriter, my bat, these photo frames, my gramophone where we used to dance? Oh, I tell you what, best, let's take the sofa, the one she died on. Now, it's almost like a Chekhov's gun. If you mention the sofa, you mentioned it earlier, she lay her head on his lap, or so gayi, like she always wanted. All right, that's how you describe someone's death. We use that line to talk about the sofa to take it to America. And then we use the sofa to lie down because that's all he has left of her. It was so beautiful. Shivani, as again, Shiv, even before he comes on the screen, and he's sitting in the office with the boss, Sen, Siddharth, he says, you're early. Now that seems like an innocuous line. You're early, Amay. Meeting doesn't start for another 15 minutes. He's saying, then my father would say that I was just on time. Now, why is that line there? We're introducing the father very subtly about what he's been listening to his father, but he doesn't want to accept with his father. He follows, he's just saying it to impress his boss, but the father is invoked. Similarly, the mother is invoked. The moment he enters and said, from behind, you look just like mom. When he enters the house and he sees the mom, go as mom. Mom, she's the only one to listen to. And Anas Konu chale, I had to agree. Mom, mom, mom. By the time you say, you know the mom. That's all Alex, man. That's Alex's train. It's unbelievable what Alex has brought to this film. It's just beautiful. You got to foreshadow everything. It's so beautiful that you can actually imagine Shivani. And you see a photograph, that's how Shivani was. And then, of course, he says she does not want me to go. You broke her heart. The subtext is, you may have broken her heart, but you broke my heart. That's what he's saying. He can't say broke. Imagine that line. He's saying, you come to Bombay for this? Gadi hai, ghar hai. To Mumbai isliye aaya tha. You broke my heart. You broke her heart. He's using her all the time. Okay, we'll work backwards. I wanted the scene to be, the boardroom scene to be shot at night. There would be a lot more gravity at night, and he had to wait for the whole day to get some reaction. Acha, theek hai, bulao. That's what you imagine. He must have asked Zara to fix a meeting, and he must have called up, what's his name, to fix a meeting, and they haven't called him. He's sitting there confidently, phone aayega. That's what it says. There are no dialogues. And when the camera pulled back, all that is done by a wonderful DOP, Krish Makija, and his lighting expert, Lalit. And of course, Charushri Roy being a wonderful editor herself. And it's all done in camera. We pull back, we see those poles, we pull back, and then poop, the phone bell rings, and he smiles. That tells you a story that he knew the phone will come. He has found himself now. That's the idea behind that scene. I think the cricket scene for me is very, very important for me because there's just 2-3 lines, but the rest of it is all said without dialogue, and you kind of understand where the old man was coming from. He's always pushed his son, and that's the reason why his intention is great. His methods may not be. His method may not be great, and while he's pushing his son to do his best, he ends up getting hurt right in the heart. Right in the heart. So he's telling him, first of all, he wants to be a man when he's not. So he bowls underarm, insult number one. Then he bowls a lollipop. And then he says, bowl like a man. And he must have pushed him enough to hurt himself. And the camera starts with little Amay, the bowler, Omkar, small, growing, coming straight into the camera. And then you see the eye of the tiger. They say, now he's not, because now in the next scene, he's got to go and show him, right? And he becomes a big, strapping man. And he's smiling. My boy has become a man. And he gets hurt. That's my favorite scene. I think I used all my experience over the years of being a cinephile. Like if you've seen a movie called Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, he comes to the bank and Paul Newman is beautiful looking man, and the lights go out, tuck, when the bank shuts down. And that was a homage to that film. Mr. William Goldman wrote it, and Mr. George Roy Hill directed it. And when you see the lights going out, and I had to foreshadow the lighting also, the light on, light off thing. When he pulls the phone from his hand and she said, dinner's served, and one light goes off, another light goes off, another. And he's reduced to a little boy all over again. So that was an inspiration for sure. Kramer versus Kramer is one of my favorite films. That's an inspiration. See, people are afraid to do family dramas because it can become sappy and soppy. But I don't care, because that's the kind of story I wanted to tell. Kramer versus Kramer, the performances, and it just shines a big light on relationships, like this one does, on everything that we are angry about, and we somehow let the anger get the better of us and miss out on opportunities to at least say sorry. But if you see, there's a rule of three that takes place: 3 dinners, 3 times to the airport, three rainy ladies, yeah. So the missed opportunity. Imagine if he had caught that flight and he was not bumped off. He would never see him again. So the idea is to shine a light on that if you have an opportunity, just be civil. You don't have to hug, and you don't have to kiss, and you don't have to say, I'm sorry, and you don't have to cry. Just be nice to each other. That's the basis of any relationship. Somebody said very nicely, what's the idea of a good marriage? A good marriage when 2 people are willing to say sorry at the same time. And my definition of a good marriage is the first 50 years are tough, then it's fine. All right, guys. God bless you all. God bless you for what you are doing. God bless you for what you are doing towards the understanding of cinema that needs to be understood, and not just sitting in trashing movies, seeing the good in movies, and probably building young minds to learn to understand that writing is important, paying your dues is important, detailing is important. I think this is the reason why I was so impressed by that post, and that's the reason why I'm here. And but I'm very happy to speak to you young people, and you all are wonderful, and you all are beautiful, and you all are genuine movie lovers, and I appreciate you all for that.